Welcome to This is Thailand. I'm your host, and today's story is going to hit different. This one comes from Ciaran, a 61-year-old Irishman who spent 40 years working the same factory floor in Cork before his world collapsed overnight. He came to Chiang Mai looking for peace, maybe a fresh start, and he thought he'd found something real. A Thai woman who seemed different from all the warnings he'd heard. She had a job, a family, responsibilities. She didn't ask for money. That's what made it feel safe. What happened next changed everything he thought he understood about loneliness, about trust, and about the price of wanting to feel needed again. This one's going to stick with you. Here's his story, in his own words. My name's Ciaran O'Sullivan, and I'll tell you straight, I never thought I'd be one of those fellas with a cautionary tale. I'd worked 40 years at the pharmaceutical packaging plant in Cork. Same shift, same mates, same routine. Clock in at 7, clock out at 3, home for my red shepherd's pie, weekends watching Cork City play at Turner's Cross with a pint at the local after. It wasn't glamorous but it was solid. That's what I'd tell myself, solid. Myred and I bought our terraced house in 1987. 2 bedrooms, bit of a garden out back, close enough to the shops that she could walk. We raised our 2 daughters there, Siobhan and Neve, good girls, both of them. They'd moved away, of course. Siobhan to Dublin for university and never came back, got herself a job with some tech company. Neve went to London, married an English fellow. They'd call on Sundays sometimes. They were busy. I understood that. They had their own lives. I wasn't ambitious, never saw the point in it really. I had what I needed, steady work, a wife who knew how I took my tea, a mortgage that'd be paid off by the time I retired. I wasn't planning to change the world. I was just planning to show up, do the work, go home. For 40 years, that's exactly what I did. Then one Tuesday morning, everything ended. I was getting ready for work, same as always. My Reed was in the kitchen making breakfast. I heard this sound, not quite a gasp, more like all the air leaving her body at once. By the time I got to the kitchen, she was on the floor. Massive heart attack, the paramedics said later. She was gone before the ambulance even arrived. 56 years old. We were supposed to have another 20 years together, maybe 30. We had plans, nothing fancy, just the usual retirement stuff. Maybe a trip to Spain, maybe getting a dog. I was 58 years old, and suddenly every single thing in my life was a reminder of what I'd lost. Her coat still hanging by the door. The chair she'd sit in to watch the telly, the silence. Jesus, the silence was the worst part. We've been together since we were kids, practically. I didn't know how to be a person without her. The girls came back for the funeral, of course. They stayed a week, helped me sort through Myriad's things, made sure I was eating, then they went back to their own lives. I couldn't blame them for that. What were they supposed to do? Move back to Cork to keep their dog company? They had husbands, jobs, responsibilities. Siobhan called every few days at first, then once a week Naive sent texts. They were doing their best, but I was alone in that house, and it was killing me. 6 months after the funeral, I realized I had 2 choices. I could stay in Cork and slowly fade into the wallpaper at the local pub, become one of those old fellas nursing the same pint for 3 hours while the world moved on without him. Or I could do something completely different. Something my Reed would probably have thought was mad, but she wasn't here to tell me otherwise. I sold the house. We bought it for £35,000 back in '87, which seemed like a fortune at the time, paid off the mortgage over the years. When I put it on the market, it sold for €190,000. After fees and paying off the last bit we owed, I walked away with €160,000. For the first time in my adult life, I had actual money, not just enough to get by actual money, and I had no idea what to do with it. I wasn't going to blow it on a fancy car or start gambling. That's not who I am. But I also couldn't stomach another Irish winter alone in some small flat, watching the rain and waiting to die. I started researching places where that money might stretch further, somewhere warm, somewhere I could live decently without burning through my savings in 5 years. I'd get my pension, of course about €1,200 a month, not much, but between that and what I'd saved, I could make it work. The question was where. I watched YouTube videos, read forums, talked to a fella at the pub who'd spent time in Spain. Everyone had opinions. Portugal was lovely but expensive. Spain was full of British tourists. The Philippines looked chaotic. Vietnam seemed interesting, but I didn't fancy the food. Then I watched a documentary about Chiang Mai. It was in northern Thailand, mountains, temples, proper food markets. It looked peaceful, the kind of place where a fella could just exist without all the noise. It wasn't Pattaya with the go-go bars and the madness. It wasn't Bangkok with the traffic and the chaos. It was quieter, slower. The weather was warm year-round. My money would last longer there than anywhere in Europe. I didn't tell the girls right away. I knew what they'd say. They'd worry, tell me I was being reckless, ask what I knew about Thailand. The answer was nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about Thailand, but I also knew I couldn't stay where I was. I booked a one-way ticket, told Siobhan and Neve I was going on holiday to clear my head, that I'd be back in a few months. They didn't believe me, but they didn't stop me either. What could they say? I was 60 years old. I'd worked for 4 decades. My wife was dead. I could do what I wanted. The night before I left, I sat in the empty house one last time. All our furniture had been sold or given away. The walls still had the marks where pictures had hung. I thought about Mairead, about what she'd think of all this. Part of me reckoned she'd understand. She'd always been practical. She'd see that I couldn't stay there, surrounded by ghosts. The other part of me thought she'd call me a fool. And maybe she'd have been right. I flew out of Dublin on a Wednesday morning in October. 58 years old, 1 suitcase, €160,000 in the bank, and absolutely no plan beyond getting as far away from the emptiness as I possibly could. The flight to Chiang Mai took the best part of a day, Dublin to London, London to Bangkok, then a smaller plane north to Chiang Mai. I'd never been on a plane longer than 2 hours before. By the time I landed, I was knackered, confused about what time it was, and sweating through my jacket. October in Ireland means layers. October in Thailand means 32 degrees and humidity that hits you like a wall. The airport was small, modern enough. I got through immigration without much hassle, showed them my return ticket that I had no intention of using, told them I was on holiday. 60 days stamped in my passport. I'd figure out the visa situation later. A fella at the airport taxi desk charged me 400 baht to get to my apartment. I had no idea if that was fair. Turned out it was about €12. Back home, that wouldn't get you across Cork City. I'd found the apartment online through one of those expat rental sites. Studio flat near the old city, 12,000 baht a month. The photos looked decent. When the taxi pulled up, I was relieved to see it actually matched the pictures. Small building, maybe 6 units, painted yellow with those narrow balconies you see all over Asia. The landlady was waiting, a Thai woman in her 50s who spoke passable English. She showed me the unit, took my deposit in cash, gave me 2 keys, and told me where to get breakfast. The whole transaction took maybe 15 minutes. The apartment was simple. 1 room with a bed, a tiny kitchen area, a bathroom with a squat toilet, and a shower that was just a hose attached to the wall. Air conditioning unit that rattled when it ran. But it was clean, and the windows looked out over a narrow street lined with shophouses. I could hear motorbikes, music from somewhere, people talking in Thai. I dropped my suitcase, sat on the bed, and realized I had no idea what to do next. Those first few weeks were strange. I'd wake up disoriented, forgetting where I was, then remembering all over again. No Mairead, no factory, no Ireland. Just heat and strange smells and a language that sounded like music I couldn't follow. I'd walk to the 7-Eleven down the street. There's one on every corner in Thailand, I learned, and buy bottled water, instant noodles, things I recognized. The staff would smile, try to help, but I felt lost, completely out of my depth. But slowly, something started to shift. The heat stopped feeling oppressive and just became normal. I found a little cafe near TFI Gate that did decent coffee and had Wi-Fi. I'd sit there in the mornings, watch the city wake up, try to make sense of where I'd landed. Tuk-tuks rattling past, monks in orange robes walking with their alms bowls, tourists on rented scooters, Thai women setting up food carts selling things I couldn't name but smelled incredible. I started exploring. The old city was surrounded by an ancient wall and a moat, temples everywhere you looked. Wat Shetty Luang with its massive ruined Shetty, Wat Phra Singh with the golden Buddha inside. I'm not religious, but there was something calming about these places. The incense, the quiet, the way people would wait to the monks and make merit. I'd sit on the temple steps sometimes, just watching, feeling like maybe I could breathe properly for the first time since Mairead died. The food, Jesus, the food was something else. At first I stuck to pad thai and fried rice, the tourist stuff. But eventually, I got braver. The night markets were mental, hundreds of stalls selling grilled meat on sticks, papaya salad so spicy it made my eyes water, sticky rice, mango, things I still don't know the names of, and cheap. 60 baht for a full meal, that's less than €2. I could eat like a king for pocket change. I met other expats quickly enough. You spot them easily, white fellas my age or older, usually sitting in the same cafes, drinking Leo or Chang beer even at lunchtime. There was a pub near the night bazaar that catered to foreigners, showed Premier League matches, served proper chips. I started going there once or twice a week, just to hear English, to feel less alien. That's where I met Tony, British bloke, maybe 65, from somewhere in the Midlands. He'd been in Chiang Mai for a decade, taught English at a language school for a few years, then just lived on his pension. We got talking over a match one afternoon. He asked the usual questions: where are you from, how long you here, what brought you? I told him the short version. Wife died, couldn't stay home, needed somewhere warm and cheap. He nodded like he'd heard it 100 times before. You'll like it here, he said. Chiang Mai's good for starting over. Just keep your wits about you. I asked what he meant. He took a long drink of his beer, looked at me with this knowing expression. The women, he said. You'll meet Thai women who'll seem lovely. Some of them are. Most of them, if they're interested in a bloke like us, they're interested in your wallet. Don't be a mug. I told him I wasn't interested in that. I was just here for peace and quiet. He laughed, not unkindly. That's what they all say at first. But you're lonely, mate. I can see it. And lonely fellas make stupid decisions. Just remember, if a beautiful Thai woman wants to be with you, ask yourself why. The answer is usually money. I appreciated the warning, but it didn't seem relevant. I wasn't looking for romance. I was 58, still grieving, just trying to get through each day without thinking too hard about the future. The idea of meeting someone new felt impossible. Disloyal, even. But Tony was right about one thing. I was lonely. Desperately, achingly lonely. The kind of loneliness that sits in your chest like a stone, that turns every silence into a reminder of what you've lost. Being in Thailand helped because everything was new and distracting. But at night, in that small apartment with the rattling aircon, the loneliness would creep back in. I fell into a routine. Morning coffee at the cafe near Tha Phai Gate, afternoons wandering temples or reading in my apartment, evenings at the expat pub or trying new food at the night markets. I signed up for Thai language classes at a school near the university. I was terrible, and I couldn't get my head around the tones, kept forgetting the simplest words, but it gave me something to do, people to talk to. 3 months in, I felt like I'd made the right choice. My money was stretching further than I'd imagined, 12,000 baht for rent, maybe another 15,000 for food and expenses. That's about €700 a month total. My pension covered it with plenty left over. I wasn't saving, but I wasn't burning through my nest egg either. I could live here indefinitely if I wanted to. I video called the girls every couple of weeks. Told them I was fine, showed them the apartment, the temples, tried to make it sound like an adventure rather than an escape. Siobhan was skeptical. "You're really staying there, Da?" she'd ask. I'd tell her I was just taking it month by month, seeing how it went. Naive was more accepting, just wanted me to be happy, to not be sitting alone in Cork getting more depressed. Then one morning, about 3 months after I'd arrived, I went to my usual cafe for coffee. Different waitress that day. Her name tag said Noka. She was maybe 35, petite, with this warm smile that actually reached her eyes. When I tried to order in my terrible Thai cafe ron ka, she laughed, not at me, but with genuine amusement. "You want hot coffee?" she said in English. Her accent was strong but clear. "Yeah, that's what I was trying for," I said, embarrassed. "You Thai's good," she said, still smiling. "You try hard. Most Farang just speak English, expect everyone to understand." We chatted for a minute. She asked where I was from, how long I'd been in Chiang Mai, if I liked it here. Normal small talk, the kind waitresses make everywhere. But there was something different about her. She seemed genuinely interested, not just going through the motions. When other customers needed her, she excused herself politely, brought me my coffee a few minutes later. I started going to that cafe every day, not because of knock, or at least that's what I told myself, but because it was convenient. The coffee was decent, the Wi-Fi was reliable. But yeah, if I'm being honest, I looked forward to seeing her. She'd chat with me when she had time, ask about my day, tell me about hers. She worked 6 days a week at the cafe, had done for 3 years. She was single, had a son who was 15, very smart, wanted to go to university. Her husband had left years ago, she said. Just went to Bangkok for work one day and never came back. Typical Thai man, she said with a shrug, no bitterness in her voice. Just stating a fact. She showed me photos on her phone during one of her breaks. Her son Samchai in his school uniform, serious expression, looked like a good kid. Her mother, elderly woman with a kind face. Their house small, modest, somewhere outside the city. Everything about Nok seemed real, grounded. She had a life, responsibilities, wasn't just working in a bar waiting for the next foreigner to come along. After about a month of daily visits, something shifted. The conversations got longer. She'd sit with me during her breaks, ask more personal questions. Why had I really come to Thailand? Was I running from something or toward something? I found myself telling her about Myrid, about the emptiness back home, about needing to be somewhere that didn't remind me of everything I'd lost. She listened in this way that felt genuine, didn't try to fix it or tell me it would get better. Just listened, nodded, said she understood what it meant to lose someone. When her shift ended one afternoon, I asked if she'd like to get dinner sometime, somewhere other than the cafe. She hesitated. "People will talk," she said. "Thai people see Thai woman with Farang, they think." "I know what they think," I said. "But I'm just asking for dinner, no expectations." She smiled. "Okay, but I pay for my food. I have job, I can pay." That should have been my first clue that she was different. Every story I'd heard from Tony and the other expats involved women who immediately expected you to pay for everything. Nok insisted on paying her half. When I tried to argue, she got firm about it. "I work hard for my money," she said. "I don't need man to take care of me. I just want friend." Friend. That's what this was. I was 59 years old, she was 34, we were from completely different worlds. But I hadn't had a real conversation with someone who wasn't an expat in months, and she made me feel less alone. That was enough. We started seeing each other regularly after that. Nothing romantic, or at least I didn't think of it that way. We'd meet after her shifts, walk through the night markets, she'd explain what all the food was, laugh at my attempts to eat some tam without dying from the chili. She introduced me to her son one afternoon. Quiet kid, focused on his studies, polite but distant with me. I didn't blame him. I was just some random Irish fella his mother had met. Meeting her mother took longer. Nock explained that her mother was traditional, wouldn't understand her daughter spending time with a foreigner without serious intentions. When I finally met her at their house, about 20 minutes outside the city on the back of a Songthaeyu, the old woman was polite but reserved. Didn't speak English, just watched me carefully while Nock translated. But for the first time since my red died, I felt something other than grief. Not happiness exactly, but maybe hope. Like, maybe life wasn't just about getting through each day anymore. Maybe there was something worth building here. Looking back now, I can see how perfectly it was all constructed. The gradual approach, the insistence on paying her own way, the introduction to family, the careful building of trust. But at the time, all I saw was kindness. All I felt was needed again. And that's what made everything that came next possible. Our first proper date was at a restaurant by the Ping River. I had suggested a place I'd seen near the night bazaar, but Nock said she knew somewhere better, quieter, where the locals went. We took a Songthaeyu, those red pickup trucks with benches in the back that work like shared taxis. Cost 20 baht each. She paid her own before I could offer. The restaurant was open air, right on the water, string lights hanging overhead, the smell of grilled fish and lemongrass heavy in the humid evening air. We sat at a plastic table, ordered food I'd never heard of. When the bill came, maybe 300 baht total, about €8, I reached for it. Nock's hand got there first. We split, she said firmly. I told you, I have job. I tried to argue. Back home, you pay for dinner when you take a woman out. That's just what you do. But she wouldn't budge. Counted out her half and 20 baht notes, put them on the table with this look that said the discussion was over. Every story Tony had told me, every warning from the expat forums, they all started with women expecting you to pay for everything. Here was Nock, insisting on the opposite. That's when I started to think maybe this was different. Maybe I'd actually found one of the good ones. We started seeing each other 2-3 times a week. She'd finish her shift at the cafe around 6, and we'd meet somewhere. Sometimes the night markets where she'd explain what everything was. Muping was grilled pork, some tam was green papaya salad, khao niao was sticky rice. I'd try things that made my eyes water from the chili, and she'd laugh, but not in a mean way. Just genuine amusement at this Irish fella who couldn't handle spice. Other times she'd come to my apartment and cook. She'd bring ingredients from the market, fresh vegetables, fish sauce, Thai basil, things I couldn't name, and turn my tiny kitchen into something that smelled like the street food stalls. She'd tease me about my attempts to help, my complete inability to chop vegetables properly after 40 years of my red doing all the cooking. And here's the thing, she never asked for anything, not money, not gifts, nothing. She'd bring food to cook, wouldn't let me pay her back. When I bought her a small bracelet from the night market, something that cost maybe 200 baht, she was genuinely flustered, said it was too much. I shouldn't spend money on her. I had to insist she keep it. About 6 weeks in, she introduced me to Sunchai, her son. He was 15, skinny kid with serious eyes, always had a book with him. We met at a cafe near his school. He was polite but reserved, answered my questions about school in 1 or 2 words, then went back to his homework. Nock apologized after, said he was shy, didn't know how to act around foreigners. He's a good kid, I told her, and I meant it. He reminded me a bit of how Siobhan had been at that age, focused, determined, not interested in the usual teenage nonsense. Meeting her mother was different. Took nearly 2 months before Nock said her mother was ready. We went out to their house on a Sunday afternoon. I'd bought fruit from the market, mangoes, rambutans, dragon fruit, because Nock said that was the polite thing to do. The house was small, traditional Thai style, wooden with a corrugated metal roof, surrounded by other houses just like it. Dogs barking, roosters crowing, the sound of Thai soap operas coming from someone's television. Nock's mother was maybe 70, tiny woman with gray hair pulled back, wearing a simple cotton dress. She didn't speak any English. Nock translated everything. The old woman asked where I was from, what I did for work, why I'd come to Thailand. Standard questions, but I could feel her weighing every answer. This wasn't just small talk. This was her trying to figure out if I was going to hurt her daughter. I told her the truth, or the version Nock had already explained. My wife had died, I'd retired, Ireland was too cold, too sad. I came here for a fresh start. The old woman nodded. Didn't smile exactly, but some of the tension left her face. At the end of the visit, she pressed my hands between hers, said something in Thai, Nock translated. She says you have kind eyes. She hopes you treat me well. I promised I would. That's when things started to shift. We weren't just friends anymore, not really. I don't know when exactly it happened, but somewhere in those months of shared meals and conversations and her laughter at my terrible Thai, it became something more. I hadn't planned for it, didn't think I wanted it. But loneliness does strange things to you, makes you reach for anything that feels like connection, the other expats noticed. Tony raised an eyebrow one night at the pub when I mentioned I couldn't stay long, was meeting Knock for dinner. You and the cafe girl are getting serious then, he said. I shrugged. She's good company. She asked you for money yet? No, I said, maybe too defensively. She pays her own way. Has her own job. Tony nodded slowly. Good, that's good. Just be careful, yeah? The ones who don't ask right away, they're playing a longer game sometimes. I told him he was being cynical. Not every Thai woman was after your wallet. Some of them were just normal people trying to get by. Nok had a job, a family, responsibilities. She wasn't some bar girl in Pattaya. She was different. You might have found a good one, Tony admitted. They exist. Just rare. You're lucky if that's the case. I went home that night feeling validated. See, even Tony thought I might have found something real. This wasn't like the cautionary tales. This was different. Then, about 6 months in, Nok's mother got sick. Nok was distraught when she told me. We were at my apartment. She'd just finished cooking pad krapal, and her phone rang. Long conversation in Thai, her voice getting higher, more stressed. When she hung up, there were tears in her eyes. My mother, she said. She very sick. Blood sugar too high. She need medicine, but government hospitals say medicine not free, must pay. I asked how much. Nok showed me a piece of paper with numbers written in Thai script in English. 35,000 baht, about €900. I don't have this money, she said, crying harder now. I work 6 days, but salary only enough for rent, food, Sanchai school. I ask friend for loan, but everyone's same, no have money. She wasn't asking, that's what got me. She was just telling me her problem, crying about it. Same way you'd cry to a friend about something terrible happening. She never said, can you help? Never said, can you give me money? She just cried and said she didn't know what to do. I didn't even think about it. I told her I'd take care of it, told her not to worry, that her mother needed the medicine, and I could help. €900 was nothing compared to what I had. It was family. In a way, they were my family now too, weren't they? Nok cried harder, said she couldn't accept, that it was too much, she'd pay me back when she could. I told her to stop. This is what you do for people you care about. No payback needed. She threw her arms around me, sobbing into my shoulder, saying I was the kindest man she'd ever met, that she'd never forget this. I transferred the money the next day, 35,000 baht straight into her account. She sent me photos of her mother with the medicine, sent me a video of her mother saying thank you in broken English. The old woman looked genuinely grateful, hands pressed together in a Y. I felt good about it, really good. I was helping people who needed help. I was being useful again. After 3 years of feeling useless, failing to save my red, watching my daughters move on without me, spending 40 years doing the same meaningless factory job here, was something that mattered. A month later, Nok's motorbike broke down. She didn't even tell me at first. I noticed she'd been taking Sundays to work, asked her about it. She admitted the bike had died completely, couldn't be repaired, needed a new one. But motorbikes were expensive, and she couldn't afford it right now. Maybe in a few months if she saved every extra baht. How much is a new one? I asked. She said 45,000 baht for a decent used bike. About €1,200. Without it, she'd have to pay for transportation every day, which would eat up most of what she saved by not having a bike. It was one of those poverty traps, can't afford the thing that would save you money. I offered to buy it for her. She protested, said she couldn't accept more money from me, that I'd already done too much with her mother's medicine. But I insisted she needed to get to work. This wasn't charity, it was practical. How was she supposed to keep her job without reliable transport? She cried again. Said she'd pay me back, every baht, once she got her finances sorted. I told her not to worry about it. We were together now, weren't we? Partners. This is what partners do. We went to a motorbike shop the next day. She picked out a used Honda, red and white, a few years old, but in good condition. I paid cash. The guy at the shop barely looked at me, just counted the bills and handed over the keys. Nok was ecstatic, kept saying thank you, kept saying she didn't deserve this, didn't deserve me. Looking back now, I can see the pattern. The way she never directly asked. The way every problem was presented as her burden, her stress, her failure to manage it, the tears, the gratitude, the constant reassurance that she'd pay me back, and me. Eager to be the hero, to be needed, to have a purpose again. But at the time, all I saw was someone I cared about struggling, and me having the power to help. After years of being powerless to save my Reed, powerless to keep my daughters close, powerless to make myself feel anything but empty here, was something I could actually do. I could fix problems, I could make things better. I'd given her 80,000 baht in 2 months, just over €2,000. I didn't think of it as a lot. I had €160,000 in the bank. My pension covered my living expenses. This was helping family. This was building something real. The voice in my head that sounded like Tony's warnings, like the cautionary tales from the expat forums, like common sense, I pushed it down. Told myself they didn't understand. Nok wasn't like the others. She had a job. She'd tried to refuse the money. She kept saying she'd pay me back. She was different. I was sure of it. And that certainty, that desperate need to believe I'd found something real, made everything that came next inevitable. By the time I hit my first year in Thailand, Nok and I were properly together. She'd given me a key to her family home. "You family now," she said when she handed it to me. "You come anytime. My mother like you, some chai like you. You always welcome." I'd drive out there on my rented scooter. I'd finally got one myself after watching Nok zip around on hers and have dinner with them a few times a week. The house was simple but warm. We'd sit on the floor on woven mats, eating from shared dishes, Nok's mother chattering away in Thai while Nok translated the important bits. The old woman would pat my arm, smile at me, say things Nok claimed were compliments. I felt like I belonged somewhere again. Samchai had warmed to me too, started showing me his schoolwork, asking questions about Ireland, about what university was like there. The kid was sharp, really sharp. His English was getting better from talking to me. He wanted to study engineering, he said. Maybe at Chiang Mai University, maybe in Bangkok if he could get in. That's when Nok mentioned the university entrance exams. We were having dinner at her house, just the three of us. Her mother had already eaten and gone to bed. Samchai was in his room studying. Nok looked worried, kept glancing toward his room. "What's wrong?" I asked. She sighed. "University exam very expensive in Thailand. Not just exam, but student needs special course to prepare. Without course, very hard to pass. All good student take course." "How much does it cost?" She showed me a brochure from one of the prep schools. 80,000 baht for a 6-month course plus the exam fees. About €2,100. I could see the stress in her eyes. This wasn't like the medicine or the motorbike. This was her son's future. "Samchai very smart," she said. "But if he not pass exam, he cannot go university. Then he work in shop, maybe factory, like me. I want better for him." I didn't hesitate, told her I'd pay for it. This was an investment in the kid's education, in their future, in our future really, because that's what this was becoming, wasn't it? A future together. Nok cried, said it was too much, she couldn't ask this of me. But I insisted. I transferred the money the next day. When I told Samchai, the kid's face lit up. First real smile I'd seen from him. He shook my hand, very formal, said thank you in careful English. Said he'd work hard, make me proud, pay me back when he graduated and got a good job. "You don't need to pay me back," I told him. "Just do well, that's all I want." Nok hugged me that night, told me I was the kindest man she'd ever known. Said her mother had been right about my kind eyes. Said Samchai finally had a chance at a real future because of me. I felt like €1,000,000. Better than I'd felt in years. Since my Reed died, maybe since before that, I was contributing to something that mattered. I was building a family again. But the requests kept coming. Always reasonable. Always necessary. Always with tears and apologies. Nok's mother needed different medication a few months later. The diabetes medicine was working, but now her heart was acting up. 25,000 baht, about €650. I paid it without blinking. Then the house needed repairs. Just minor stuff, Nok said. Some broken tiles in the bathroom, a leaky pipe, electrical work, 15,000 baht. About €390. Of course I'd help. I couldn't have them living in a house that was falling apart. Samchai needed a computer for his studies. His old one had died, he said. Showed me the broken laptop, screen cracked, wouldn't turn on. The prep course required assignments to be submitted online. He couldn't do the work without a proper computer. 30,000 baht. About €785. I bought him a decent new laptop from a shop in the city center. Each time Nok would cry. Each time she'd say she hated asking, that she felt like a burden, that she'd pay me back when things got better. Each time I'd tell her it was fine. This is what families do for each other. This is what love looks like. By month 15, I'd given her roughly 400,000 baht, just over €10,000. I'd started keeping a tally in my head, not because I wanted the money back, I didn't, but because I'd spent 40 years on a factory floor learning to count every penny, and some habits die hard. €10,000 in a year. That was more than my annual pension back home. The number sat in my mind like something I couldn't quite swallow. But every time doubt started to creep in, Nok would do something that pushed it away. She'd cook my favorite Thai dishes, masaman curry that took hours to make, tom yum soup with fresh lemongrass from the market. She'd tell me stories about her mother saying prayers for me at the temple, about Samchai doing well in his studies because of my help. She'd curl up next to me in my apartment and say, "I'm so lucky I found you. You saved us." And I'd feel that warm glow again, being needed, being useful, being part of something. The other expats at the pub were less convinced. I was there one night with Tony and a few other regulars. Australian bloke named Dave, British fella called Martin. We were watching a match, drinking Chiang, and I mentioned I couldn't stay for the second half. Had to meet Nock for dinner. Dave raised an eyebrow. "You're always running off to see her these days." "She's my girlfriend," I said. "Simple as that." "How much you given her so far?" Tony asked. Direct, like always. I shrugged. "I don't keep track." "Bullshit," Martin said. "Everyone keeps track, even when they say they don't." I admitted it was maybe 400,000 baht over the year, maybe a bit more. Tony set his beer down. 400,000 baht in a year, mate? That's not a relationship, that's a salary. I got defensive. Told them they didn't understand. Nock had real problems. Her mother was sick, her son needed an education, the house needed repairs. These weren't frivolous requests. This was life. This was what families dealt with. "Does she still work at the cafe?" Dave asked. "Yeah, 6 days a week." "And she's still asking you for money?" "She's not asking," I said. "I'm offering. She never asks. She tells me her problems, and I help because I can, because I want to." Martin looked at me like I was thick. "Mate, that's exactly how the smart ones do it. They don't ask directly, they just present problems and let you be the hero. Makes you feel good about giving them money." "Nock's not like that," I said. "She has a job. She insisted on paying for our first date. She's got responsibilities. She's not some bar girl." Tony sighed. "The good Thai woman act is more dangerous than the bar girl act, mate. Bar girls are obvious. You know what you're paying for. The good ones make you believe it's real. That's why it hurts more when you figure out it's not." "It is real," I insisted. But my voice sounded less certain than I wanted it to. "Your money, your choice," Tony said. "Just keep your eyes open. 400 grand in a year is a lot. If it keeps going like this, how long before you run out?" I did the math in my head on the way to meet Nock. 400,000 baht was about 10,500 euro. I'd arrived with 160,000. I'd spent maybe another 8,000 on living expenses, rent, food, visa stuff. That left me with about 142,000 euro. If I kept giving Nock 10,000 a year, I'd be broke in 14 years. I'd be 73. What then? My pension would cover basic living, but barely. No cushion for emergencies. No money to fly home if something happened. No way to help the girls if they needed me. But it wouldn't keep going like this, would it? The big expenses were done. Her mother had medicine. Samchai had his computer and his course fees. The house was repaired. Surely things would settle down now. When I met Nock that night, she was all smiles. Cooked for me at my apartment, told me about Samchai's latest test scores. He was doing brilliantly in the prep course. Showed me photos her mother had sent, the old woman at the temple making merit in my name. We ate together, watched Thai TV that I didn't understand, but she'd explain the funny bits. She leaned against me, warm and comfortable, and said, "You make me so happy. I never think I'd find someone like you, someone who care about me and my family so much." I pushed Tony's warnings out of my head. They were wrong. This was real. I could feel it. Looking back now, I can see how perfectly the timing worked. Just when I'd start to question things, she'd do something that made the doubt evaporate. A home-cooked meal. A story about her mother's gratitude. Photos of Samchai studying hard with the laptop I'd bought. Physical affection that made me feel wanted. It was a system. I just couldn't see it yet, or wouldn't see it, because seeing it would mean admitting I'd been played from the start, and I wasn't ready for that, not even close. I needed to believe this was real more than I needed to protect my money. That's what they don't tell you about loneliness. It makes you stupid, makes you ignore every warning sign because the alternative, accepting that you're alone and always will be, is too painful to face. So I ignored Tony, ignored the tally in my head, ignored the small voice that asked why a 34-year-old woman with a job needed so much help from her 60-year-old boyfriend. I ignored it all because believing the lie felt better than facing the truth. And that's exactly what she was counting on. Year 2 started the week after Songkran. The water festival had been mental. 3 days of getting soaked by strangers throwing buckets of water, everyone drunk and laughing. Nock and I had celebrated together, her spraying me with a water gun while I tried to protect my phone. It felt good. Felt like we were building something real. Then she showed me photos of her family home on her phone. The roof was leaking badly during the rainy season, she said. Water pouring into the bedrooms. The walls had cracks running through them, structural issues that needed fixing before the whole place came down. Her mother was elderly, couldn't live like this much longer. The photos looked bad. Dark stains on the ceiling, buckets catching drips, crumbling plaster. I asked how much the repairs would cost. Knock showed me an estimate from a builder, 280,000 baht. About 7,400 euro. I felt the number like a punch to the chest. That was substantial. Real money. More than I'd given her for everything else combined. But what was I supposed to do? Let her mother live in a house that was falling apart? The old woman who'd welcomed me into her family, who made merit for me at the temple, who called me a good man? I told Nuck I'd take care of it. She cried harder than I'd ever seen. Said it was too much, she couldn't accept, that I'd already done so much for them. But I insisted, transferred the money the next day, 280,000 baht, 7,400 euro. Gone. Knock said I shouldn't come to the house during the renovation. It was too chaotic, too embarrassing to have me see it in such disrepair. She'd show me photos of the progress instead. I understood, didn't think much of it. Over the next month, she sent photos. New roof tiles being installed, walls being replastered, fresh paint. It looked good. Professional. When it was finished, she invited me over. The house looked brilliant. Solid roof, smooth walls, everything clean and repaired. Her mother hugged me, tears in her eyes, said something in Thai that Nok translated as, "You are blessing from Buddha. You save our family." I felt like a hero, like I'd actually done something that mattered. Then, 2 months later, Nok mentioned the restaurant. We were at my apartment, having dinner I'd cooked badly. She teased me about it when she brought it up. Her cousin knew someone who was selling a small restaurant near the university. Good location, steady customers, already profitable. The owner wanted to retire, move back to his village. Asking price was 1.2 million baht, but Nok only needed 600,000 for her share. The cousin would cover the rest. 600,000 baht. About 15,800 euro. This was different, she said. This wasn't just giving money for emergencies. This was an investment. If she owned a restaurant, she could quit the cafe, make real money. They'd have income together. She showed me photos on her phone. The restaurant looked decent, maybe 30 seats, clean kitchen visible through a window. She showed me what looked like financial documents, all in Thai, with numbers that meant nothing to me. I asked questions. Wanted to see proper statements, profit and loss, understand what we were buying into. Noak said the documents were all in Thai, too complicated to translate properly. The cousin was handling the legal side. It was a good opportunity, she said. Once the restaurant was running, she'd pay me back everything. The medicine, the motorbike, the house repairs, Samchai's education, everything. I wanted to believe her. And here's the thing, this actually made sense. Or seemed to. An investment in a business. Not charity. Partnership. I'd essentially be a business owner in Thailand. The future I was building with Nok suddenly had a tangible shape. I transferred 600,000 baht, about 15,800 euro. The biggest single amount I'd given her. Nok was ecstatic. Said we'd celebrate once the paperwork was finalized. She'd be her own boss. They'd be financially stable. We'd be partners in every sense. But the restaurant never quite materialized. There were delays. The paperwork wasn't ready. The cousin was having problems with the seller. Some issue with the lease that needed sorting. Legal complications I didn't fully understand. Every time I asked when we could visit the restaurant, when the deal would close, there was another excuse. Meanwhile, the other expenses continued. Samchai had started university. His entrance exam had gone well thanks to the prep course I'd paid for, Nok reminded me. But university fees were expensive. 60,000 baht for his first semester. About 1,575 euro. Of course I'd pay it. This was the whole point, wasn't it? Getting the kid educated. Next semester it was 75,000 baht and fees had gone up, Nok said. Different classes, more expensive books. About 1,960 euro. Nok's mother needed a new medication regimen. The diabetes and heart medications weren't enough anymore. Something to do with her kidneys now. 40,000 baht. About 1,050 euro. The motorbike I'd bought needed major repairs. Transmission problems. 25,000 baht. About 655 euro. Each request came with tears. Each came with apologies. Each came with promises of repayment once the restaurant was running, once things settled down, once they got back on their feet. And every time I asked about the restaurant, Nok would get upset. The cousin was embarrassed, she said. Didn't speak English well. Would be humiliated to meet me before the deal was complete and he could show me a successful business. When I asked to see updated documents, she said they were all in Thai. I wouldn't understand them anyway. Why didn't I trust her? That last bit hit hard. The trust question. Because what was I saying? That I didn't believe her? That I thought she was lying? After everything we'd been through together, after becoming part of her family, after helping them through genuine crises, the guilt would crush me every time. I'd apologize, say I was just worried about the money, about our future. She'd cry, say she understood, that she was a burden, that maybe I should find someone better, someone who didn't come with so many problems, and I'd hold her, tell her no, tell her I loved her, Tell her we'd figure it out together. By the end of year 2, I'd done the math properly. Sat down one night with my bank statements and actually added it up. 1.8 million baht, roughly 47,000 euro, nearly a third of everything I'd saved, money I'd earned over 40 years of factory work, money from selling the house my Red and I had bought in 1987, money that was supposed to last me until I was 80, maybe 85. I checked my account balance. I had about 105,000 euro left after living expenses. I was 60 years old. If I lived to 80, that was 20 years. 5,000 euro a year to supplement my pension. 416 euro a month on top of my 1,200 euro pension. 1,600 total. That was tight. Really tight. No margin for error. No emergency fund. No cushion if something went wrong. I mentioned this to Nok once, gently. We were at her house after dinner with her mother in Samchai, sitting outside where it was cooler, drinking Thai iced tea she'd made. I tried to explain that I needed to slow down the helping, that my money wasn't infinite, that I was worried about the future. She broke down completely, sobbing, saying she knew she was a burden, that her family was too much trouble, that I deserved better. She said, maybe we should break up, let me find a Thai woman without problems, without a sick mother and a son in university and a house that kept breaking. The guilt was unbearable. Here I was, complaining about money, when she was struggling with real problems, medical issues, education, basic shelter. What kind of man abandons people he loves just because helping them is expensive? I apologized. Held her. Promised I wasn't going anywhere. Promised we'd figure it out together. She made me tea, wiped her tears, told me the restaurant would change everything. Once it was running, she'd make good money, pay me back. Take care of me for a change. I wanted so desperately to believe her. That night, lying in my apartment alone, I stared at the ceiling and did the math again. If Nok kept needing 10,000 euro a year less than the 47,000 over 2 years, but still substantial, I'd run out of money completely in 10 years. I'd be 70. After that, I'd be living on 1,200 euro a month pension in a foreign country with no savings, no property, no safety net. The thought terrified me. But the alternative, admitting I'd been played, that I'd wasted nearly 50,000 euro on a woman who might be lying to me, was worse. Because if that was true, then what had the last 2 years been? What was I doing in Thailand? Where did that leave me? At least if I kept believing, I had Nok, I had her family, I had purpose, I had someone who needed me. Without that, I was just a lonely Irish pensioner who'd run away from home and blown his life savings on nothing. So I pushed the doubt down, told myself things would get better, told myself the restaurant was real, just delayed, told myself Nok loved me, that her family appreciated me, that I was building something meaningful. I told myself the lie because the truth was too painful to face. And somewhere in Chiang Mai, in a nice house with a new roof that I'd paid for, Nok was probably telling the same story to 3 other foreign men, each one thinking he was special, each one thinking his situation was different. But I didn't know that yet, wouldn't let myself know it. The trap had closed completely. I was in too deep to get out. The breaking point came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was at my apartment when Nok called, crying so hard I could barely understand her. Something about her brother. An accident. Emergency surgery. I didn't even know she had a brother. In 2 years, he'd never been mentioned, not once. Slow down, I said. What brother? What happened? She was hysterical. Her brother had been in a motorbike accident in Bangkok, she said. Bad one. He'd crashed into a truck, his leg was mangled, needed immediate surgery or they might have to amputate. The hospital wanted 300,000 baht up front, about 7,900 euro. She was at work, couldn't talk long. She'd WhatsApp me the hospital documents. She needed to send the money today, right now. Her brother was in agony, waiting for surgery. I sat there after she hung up, phone in my hand, and something finally snapped. Maybe it was the amount. Maybe it was the brother who'd never existed before. Maybe it was just that I'd reached my absolute limit. 300,000 baht, on top of the 1.8 million I'd already given her. That would be 2.1 million total. 55,000 euro, more than a third of everything I'd saved over 40 years. The documents came through on WhatsApp hospital forms, all in Thai. They looked official enough, but then again, I wouldn't know. I couldn't read Thai. I messaged back, need a day to arrange this. Large amount requires bank visit. She responded immediately, brother need now. Very pain, please hurry. I told her the bank wouldn't process that much through mobile transfer. I'd have to go in person tomorrow morning. She'd have the money by noon. That afternoon, I went to the expat pub. Found Gary at his usual table. British bloke, maybe 55. Been in Thailand 15 years. Ran a small detective agency helping foreigners with various problems, mostly investigating Thai girlfriends and business partners. Everyone knew what Gary did. Nobody talked about it much. Got a minute? I asked. He looked at me, then at the empty chair across from him. "Sit down, mate." I told him everything. The 2 years with Knock, the money I'd given her. The brother who'd never existed asking for emergency surgery money. Gary didn't interrupt, just listened, sipping his Leo beer. When I finished, he asked, "How much have you given her total?" "Nearly 2 million bought." Gary grimaced, shook his head. "And now she wants 300 more for a brother you've never heard of?" "Yeah. I'll need a week, maybe less." "Won't be cheap, but it'll be cheaper than another 300,000 baht." He quoted me 25,000 baht, about €655. I paid him right there, cash from my wallet. He gave me a receipt, handwritten. "Don't tell her anything," Gary said. "Keep acting normal. Tell her the bank is processing the money, having issues with the amount, whatever. I'll be in touch." For the next week, I lied to Knock. Told her the bank was having problems with the large international transfer. Some regulation about amounts over a certain threshold. Compliance checks. Should be sorted in a few days. She was frantic. Called me multiple times a day. Her brother was in so much pain. Why was it taking so long? Couldn't I go to a different bank? Couldn't I send it in smaller amounts? Each call made me feel sick. Either I was betraying someone I loved, hiring a detective to spy on her, or I was about to discover I'd been played for a complete fool. I didn't know which would be worse. Gary called on day 6. "Got your report. Meet me at the pub." He was waiting with a manila folder. Wouldn't let me open it there. "Take it home," he said. "Read it alone. Then decide what you want to do." I took the folder back to my apartment, sat on my bed, opened it. The first photos showed Knott's family home, not the broken-down house she'd shown me photos of 2 years ago. A nice house, well-maintained. New roof, the one I paid for, fresh paint, satellite dish. A decent car in the driveway that I'd never seen before. Gary's notes said the renovation had happened about a year ago. Recent work, professional job. Looked expensive. Next photo, Knock with a Thai man, older than me, maybe 65. They were at a market together, his arm around her shoulders. Gary had tracked him to a construction job in Bangkok, sent money regularly to Knock. Still very much in the picture, her ex-husband, who hadn't disappeared at all. The restaurant I'd invested 600,000 baht in? Gary had checked business registrations. Nothing under Nok's name, nothing under any cousin's name, didn't exist. The hospital documents for her brother's surgery, generic forms you could download from the internet, badly filled out. The hospital name wasn't even a real hospital in Bangkok. Then came the photos that made me feel physically ill. Knock with a German man in his 50s, getting into a nice car outside the cafe. Looked comfortable together. Familiar. Knock, with an Australian bloke, maybe 60. Gary had photographed them at a coffee shop. The Australian was handing her an envelope. Money changing hands. Knock with a British man having dinner at a restaurant near the night bazaar. A place I knew. The night of that photo, she told me she was working a double shift. Gary's report estimated at least 3 other foreign boyfriends running concurrently, each one believing they were exclusive, each one sending money for the same rotating set of emergencies: the mother's diabetes medicine, the son's education, the broken motorbike, the house repairs, the restaurant investment, the brother's surgery. It was a system, refined over years, probably running since before I'd even arrived in Thailand. I sat on my bed reading the report 3 times. My hands were shaking. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach and couldn't catch my breath. 2 years, 47,000 euro. Every tender moment, every tear, "You're the kindest man I've ever known." All of it theater, all of it business. I didn't leave my apartment that night, just sat there with the photos spread out on my bed, trying to process it, tried to pinpoint when I'd known deep down that something was wrong, when I'd chosen to ignore it. Around midnight, I started drinking. Finished half a bottle of Hong Thong whiskey I'd bought months ago and never opened. Sitting on my bed, surrounded by evidence of my own stupidity. Tony found me at the pub the next evening. I'd called him, drunk, sometime after 2 in the morning. He'd told me to sleep it off. We'd talk tomorrow. "I'm sorry, mate," he said when he sat down. That was it. Just those 4 words. We both knew what the report had said. Everyone always knows. The confrontation happened the following afternoon. I'd sobered up, showered, tried to make myself look presentable. Asked Knock to meet me at my apartment. Told her I had the money, needed to give it to her in person. She arrived smiling, gave me a hug. Asked if everything was okay with the transfer. I didn't say anything. Just laid the photos out on my small table one by one. The house with the new roof, the Thai man with his arm around her, the German man, the Australian, the British man at the restaurant. Nok looked at them calmly. No tears, no shock, no denial. Just looked at each photo like she was examining the weather forecast. "You hire a detective," she said finally. Her voice was flat. "Matter of fact, why you not trust me?" "Is any of it real?" I asked. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. "The brother? The restaurant? Any of it?" She sat down on my bed. pulled out a cigarette. I'd never seen her smoke before. Lit it with a pink lighter from her purse. You wanted me to love you, she said. Not defensive, not apologetic, just stating a fact. I give you that. You happy for 2 years, yes? I make you feel young, feel like man again. This is business. You pay, I give service. Same everywhere. What about your mother? Some chai? The house? She shrugged. Some real, some not real. Mother sick, yes, but not so sick. Some chai go to university, yes. House need repair, yes, but not so expensive like I say. You want to help, so I let you help. The restaurant? No restaurant. Cousin want money, I give him money, he spend. Maybe we make restaurant someday, maybe not. Documents, just paper. And the brother? She smiled. Actually smiled. No brother, just need money. You usually give, so I think you give again. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, like this was happening to someone else. The other men in the photos? Same like you, they pay for same thing, same service. She took a drag from her cigarette, blew the smoke toward my ceiling. You think I can live on cafe salary? You think I can send son to real university, fix mother house, buy nice thing? You all want beautiful Thai woman love you. I give you that, but love is business. You know this, I think. You just pretend you don't know. And there it was, the thing I'd known all along but refused to see. Did you ever care about me at all? I asked. She thought about it. Actually considered the question. I like you okay. You kind man. Not rough like some farang, not drunk all the time, not want strange thing. But you lonely. I see that first day lonely man will pay anything to not be lonely. This is Thailand. You want Thai girlfriend? You pay. You want feel special? You pay more. She stood up, stubbed out the cigarette in my sink, collected her purse. I go now. You not give me money for brother. Okay, I understand. I find other customer. You good customer for 2 year. I appreciate. But now finish. At the door, she turned back. You make trouble. I tell police you harass me. You understand? You say nothing. I say nothing. We finish, okay? Then she was gone. Just like that. Within an hour of me showing her the photos, she was out of my life. Took her purse, took 2 years of my money, and walked out of my apartment like it was the end of a shift at the cafe. I sat in my empty apartment surrounded by photos of my own stupidity. The worst part wasn't losing the money. Wasn't even the humiliation. The worst part was knowing that somewhere deep down, I'd known all along. Every warning from Tony, every pattern I'd noticed, every red flag I'd explained away. I'd chosen to believe the lie because the truth was unbearable. I was 61 years old, alone in a foreign country, and I'd just given away €47,000 to a woman who saw me as a customer, not a partner, not family, a customer. And I'd known. On some level, I'd always known. I just hadn't wanted to. I spent the first 2 weeks after that confrontation barely leaving my apartment. I'd wake up, and the reality would slam into me fresh every morning. The money was gone. The relationship was a lie. I'd been exactly the kind of fool Tony had warned me about. I stopped going to my regular cafe. Couldn't bear the thought of seeing Knock there, serving coffee to the next lonely farang with the same warm smile she'd given me. Stopped answering calls from Siobhan and Neve. What was I supposed to tell them? They'd warned me, told me not to send money to someone I barely knew. I'd called them cynical, said they didn't understand. The financial reality settled in slowly, like water seeping through a cracked foundation. I'd arrived in Thailand with €160,000 and a pension of $1,200 a month. I'd spent some on living expenses over 2 years, but the vast majority, €47,000, had gone to Nakai, had roughly $105,000 left. At 61 years old, with no career to return to, no house in Ireland, that money needed to last me potentially 25 or 30 more years. My pension would cover basic rent and food, but any major expense, health issues, emergency travel, anything unexpected would eat into that $105,000. Once it was gone, I'd be living month to month in a foreign country with no safety net. I moved to a cheaper apartment. 8,000 baht a month instead of 12,000, smaller, but decent enough. I calculated obsessively. If I was very careful, I could make my savings last until I was 80, maybe 85. After that, I'd be depending entirely on my Irish pension and hoping my health held out. The dream of a comfortable retirement in Thailand died. The dream of restaurants and travel and trips back to see the girls. Now it was just about survival. About not becoming one of those destitute expats you see begging online or sleeping rough in Bangkok. Tony and the other lads at the expat pub were kind about it. In that rough way working men show kindness. They didn't mock me, didn't say I told you so, just bought me pints, let me talk when I needed to, stayed quiet when I didn't. You're not the first, Tony said one night. Won't be the last. The good ones are the most dangerous because you want so badly to believe they're different. I learned that 2 other men at their regular pub had lost similar amounts to Thai girlfriends, one to a bar girl in Pattaya, another to a good Thai woman like Nuk. It was the second kind that did the most damage, because they made you believe. I tried calling the girls after a month. Siobhan was cold. We told you, Da. We told you not to send money to someone you barely knew. Neve was gentler but still disappointed. Are you coming home? She asked. I said no. What was there to come home to? The house was sold. My friends from the factory had moved on or died. At least in Thailand my money stretched further. At least here I could afford to live. That's grand then, Neve said. And I could hear in her voice that I'd become a problem she no longer wanted to solve. The worst part wasn't the money or even the humiliation. It was the loneliness. Before Nok, I'd been lonely but had hope that Thailand might change that. After Nok, I was lonely with the certain knowledge that the loneliness was permanent, that any attempt to ease it would just be another transaction. Another performance. I thought about my Red sometimes, wondered what she'd make of all this. She'd have been furious, probably, but she'd have forgiven me eventually. She always had. 3 months after the confrontation, I saw Nok one more time. She was at a cafe near the night market with an older white man, probably late 60s, American or Canadian by the look of him. She was laughing at something he'd said, touching his arm, looking at him the exact way she'd looked at me 2 years earlier. The man was beaming, probably thinking he'd found something special, something different from all the cautionary tales. I wanted to walk over, to warn him. But what would I say? The man wouldn't believe me. I wouldn't have believed me either. I'm still in Chiang Mai. I'll probably die here. Cheaper than dying in Ireland, if nothing else. I have my routine again. Morning coffee, afternoon Thai lessons. I'm actually learning this time. Evenings at the expat pub. I don't date. Don't pursue anyone. The other expats respect that. They all have their own scars. Sometimes new arrivals show up, fresh off the plane, eyes bright with possibility. I can spot the lonely ones immediately. Sometimes they ask for advice. I usually tell them the same thing. Don't think you're special. You're not. None of us are. In Thailand, if someone beautiful wants to be with someone like you, it's business. Except that going in or don't get involved at all. Some of them listen, most don't. They're too hollowed out by whatever broke them back home. Too desperate to believe that starting over is possible. That love can be found in paradise if you just believe hard enough. I understand. I was one of them. I survived 40 years of factory work, 3 years of grief, and 2 years of expensive delusion. What I learned is this. Loneliness makes you a mark. Kindness without boundaries is stupidity. And the good Thai woman isn't better than the bar girl. She's just better at the long game. The moment you think your situation is different, you've already lost. This is the reality for thousands of Western men in Thailand every year. Sierra's story isn't unique. The details change, but the pattern remains the same. Grief, loneliness, and the desperate need to feel needed again create the perfect conditions for financial and emotional exploitation. The good Thai woman narrative is particularly dangerous because it allows men to separate themselves from the cautionary tales they've heard. My girlfriend isn't like that, they tell themselves. She has a job, a family, real problems. And sometimes that's true. But more often, it's just a more sophisticated version of the same transaction. The lesson here isn't never date Thai women or everyone in Thailand is a scammer. It's simpler than that. When you're broken open by loss, you become vulnerable to anyone offering to fill that void. And vulnerability without boundaries is an invitation to be exploited. If you're considering a relationship in Thailand, or anywhere really, after a major loss, wait. Heal first. Build a life that doesn't require another person to make it bearable. Because if you need someone to save you from your loneliness, you're not looking for a partner. You're looking for a transaction. And transactions always have a price. If Sierra's story resonates with you, or if you've had similar experiences in Thailand or elsewhere, share your story in the comments. This community exists to help each other navigate these situations with honesty and without judgment. And if you found this video valuable, subscribe to This is Thailand for more cautionary tales and hard-won wisdom from expats who've learned expensive lessons so you don't have to. Until next time, take care of yourselves out there.